In this video, I am going to explain the Python program to create a class called as employee along with the field names, that is name, ID, designation and salary. Accept the value of n, which represents the number of employees, and then display the details of all those employees by using self and init methods. Self is a parameter and init is a method. Using that, we have to display the details of employees. Okay. Now, it is a very simple program. Even though the question looks a bit complicated, the code is very simple. All you have to do is, first of all, initialize the value of n. N represents the number of employees whose details you want to display. Then, what are the details you have to display, which is already given in the question? You have to display the name, ID, designation and salary of an employee. Now, inside the class employee, you write a method called as init. Init is a predefined method which is always invoked whenever we create the object for a class. Now, whenever I create an object for class employee in this program, init method will be called. And in init method, always the first parameter will be treated as self parameter. So instead of writing self, you can write any other word or character. But in general, for our convenience, always we will be writing the parameter as self only. So after self parameter, you declare four variables which indicates name, ID, designation, salary of the employee. Here in the init method, I have declared the variable names as name, EID means employee ID, DESG means designation, SAL means salary. Now in the init method, whatever the values we will be passing while creating to the object, we will be assigning all those values to EID, name, designation and salary using self attribute. This is about init function. Now coming to display function. Simply display all the four values which you have accepted and initialized in the above function. Print self.name, comma self.eid, comma self.desg, comma self.sal. As simple as that. This is about class employee. Now outside the class, as mentioned in the problem statement, you have to initialize n employees. So you have accepted the value of n. Say for our convenience, I have accepted the value of n as 2. Now here for I in range of 10, that is, in for loop the initial counting starts from 0 onwards and the last number is excluded whenever we use range function. So literally it will accept the values as 0, 1. That is, I is equals to 0. Details of first employee will be accepted. I is equals to 1. Details of second employee will be accepted. Okay. Now here accept the four values: name, ID, designation and salary. You can use any variables of your wish. Here in this program I have used n to indicate name, ID1 to accept ID of the employee, D to accept the designation and S to accept the salary. Out of these four variables, name and designation are strings. We will be writing some text values. So we can use input function directly. Whereas coming to ID and salary, since we have to write them in the form of integers or numbers, and Python by default accepts the values as strings only whenever we use input function. For that purpose, we are writing int in order to typecast whatever the value we are accepting into integer before assigning it to ID1 or S. Now after accepting these four values, you create an object for employee class EMP and pass these four values. Now, whenever this particular statement, whatever I have highlighted, is created, the init method of employee class will be called. In the init method, the assignment will happen in this way. Name is equals to n. I mean, whatever the value we pass for n, it is assigned to name. ID1 will be assigned to the variable EID. The variable DESG will be assigned with the value D, and the variable sal will be assigned with the value S. Now this is how it happens. And after creating the object, you call the display function. As I said just now, whenever I is equals to 0, it is like the first employee details are accepted and displayed. Whenever I is equals to 1, the second employee details are accepted and displayed. This is how this particular program works. Now let us execute the program in order to understand the output. See, first of all, it is asking me to enter how many employee details to be displayed. Say 2. Then it is asking to enter the name. Say I am entering the name as ABC, ID as 1, designation as some manager, and salary, say I am entering some number. Now this immediately after accepting the values, those values will be displayed as output over here, right? Then details of first employee are accepted and displayed. Now coming to the details of second employee. Say I'll put the name as XYZ, ID as 2, designation say as CEO, and then the salary I'll enter some number. See, the details of second employee are accepted and then displayed. So this is how this particular program works. Depending upon the value of n, you can accept those many number of values related to an employees and then display. Suppose if I give the value of n as 5, you can accept and display the details of 5 employees. The same program can be written in order to accept and display the details of a student also. Instead of using the variables name, EID, designation and salary, you can use the variables called as student name, roll number, marks, email ID, attendance percentage, etc. You can implement the same concept and same program in order to accept and display the details of student also. Thank you.